Hey, you guys. Welcome to the Pageant Resource Podcast, where we challenge traditional norms, celebrate individuality, highlight stories, trends, or personalities that diverge from the mainstream media. I'm your host, Kennedy Thomas, and today we have Nic Blaize. Hey, Nic. This is the first episode, but we're going to treat it like the 100th. Okay?
Yes,
We're going to treat it like the 100th.
yes. I am honored, by the way, to be here. I'm so excited to be one of your first guests. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And Nic is near and dear to my heart. When I first started pageantry, she was right there. She's my mentor still after all these years. But for those of you who do not know who Nic is, she is a pageant coach, life coach. She is the lead human capital advisor at CDC. She has over 30 years of experience in the beauty and fashion industry. She's an entrepreneur, former pageant queen. She coaches all ages in any experience level for pageantry. And the most important thing of all is that she specializes in maximizing your strengths and your talents. Whatever that might be, pageants, life, whatever it might be, she will be there every step of the way. So thank you so much, Miss Nic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. I'm really, really blessed to be in the space where I can share my story and hopefully, if successful, I can inspire someone. So thank you so much once again for having me.
Absolutely. So let's get into the nitty gritty. I mean,
should I be nervous?
No, you should not be nervous. But, you know, the whole goal of the podcast, of this podcast, is really an extension of my own beliefs. Like, I've always been interested in hearing different perspectives, everyone's different life journeys, transformative challenges, successes, all of it. So that's why you're here. And we want to, know more about that. And typically when we do our lives, we're on Instagram, which is, cool. But what's missing is the personal aspect to it. So that's really why I wanted to, do this podcast. So real quick, Miss Nic, one thing that me and you haven't really talked about is, how did you grow up? Like let's just share with the audience real quick.
Well, most people know me as a New Yorker, a girl from Brooklyn, New York. Mm-hmm. But actually, I was born in South America, in Guyana. Mm-hmm. And I came to America when I was 2 years old. And lived in Brooklyn, went to school in Brooklyn, lived in New York up until I was about to be 30, my late 20s. And then I moved to Florida and then to Georgia. And that's where I call home now, Georgia. But one thing I will say that really helps me in what I do today is the diverse way I lived. Having a Caribbean background, and Guyana is a melting pot. Like most people, it's not Ghana. So it's not Africa. Mm-hmm. It's South America or the Caribbean. It is Guyana. And Guyana prides itself on being a country that's very diverse. We have 6 different races. So you're going to have European descent, Indian descent, African descent, Chinese. We have 6 different races. And part of that is in me. And it gives me the motivation to continue to see the world as a melting pot. And growing up in New York, immigrant central. New York is all about immigrants getting an opportunity to come to this country and really and truly live the American dream. And coming from hardworking stock like my mom and my grandmother, it gave me the opportunity to really recognize what the American dream is all about. So from a very young age, I knew what ambition looked like. And I knew that you don't get where you want to get in life by just sitting still and doing nothing. You got to put the work in. And I pride myself on instilling that in my children because that's the legacy that my grandmother left with me and my mom gave me. So definitely, I will say I get choked up sometimes when I think about it or think about my grandmother, but I will say it definitely has made me and shaped me into the woman I am. And I'm hoping I can pass that legacy on to my children too.
Absolutely. And, on the outside, that sounds fabulous. I mean, the parent dynamic that you have has created the Nic that we see today, but I can only imagine how not only stressful, but if your parents are strict, did you ever feel like you had the freedom that you wanted or no? So let's get into that. So I mean, it turned out great, but I mean, like, were you happy your childhood or?
It's crazy because I was very happy in my childhood, but I know growing up, I always felt restricted. I always felt like I couldn't do anything. Like my mom was very, very strict. My grandmother, she was strict, but she was like a lovable strict that, she's like, oh, hey, here, go ahead, go do this. But growing up, my mom had one motto: you study books, not boys. And it was all about academia, all about getting your education, all about school, and of course the arts. I did competitive dance since I was a kid. I did cheerleading, so I was always busy. And when school wrapped up, if school ended today, tomorrow I was on a plane headed to Guyana to spend the entire summer in Guyana. So it was never an opportunity for me to have idle time. And as a kid growing up, you feel those restrictions, and you feel like you see your friends, and your friends are getting to go to parties and they're getting to do stuff, and you feel like you're missing out. But the adult today realizes that when my grandmother said idle people have idle time in their hands, and when you have idle time, you can potentially get into idle trouble. And I recognize that now, and I realize when I hear myself, I am my mom, I'm my grandmother, I am them when I with my own children. But it's that discipline that made me realize that being strict is not a bad thing. Some things I would do differently, but as a parent, but honestly, my mom did a fantastic job in my mind. She really instilled a lot of qualities that I'm very proud to have. And I know if it wasn't for the way she raised me and the way my grandmother raised me, I probably would never have been the kind of person I am today.
Yeah, I love that. And you have a beautiful story. And, since I'm 23, I'm younger, but, I have
You have
a
an old
similar
soul,
story.
though.
I'm
You have
an
an
old
old
soul.
You absolutely do.
But it's a beautiful blend that you had that experience. You had all those women behind your back shaping you where to go. My mom's doing the same with me, just trying to, I kind of want to go off the reins a little bit, trying to explore self-discovery. But I love that and now that you're in my life as well, just guiding me through all of you all's trials and tribulations, just learning from all those experiences. So
It makes a difference. It really does. And I think a lot of times, we don't realize when we get to a certain age, and I say we, I'm just going to reference women because we are women. So I'm going to speak, with generalizations for women. But a lot of times what we don't realize as women is we seek mentors, and sometimes they're right in our backyard. Like sometimes those mentors are our grandmoms, they are our mother or our mother's friends, or our cousins. And sometimes the very advice that we seek, it's so close to home. And sometimes we miss that. So that's something I always want to like stress is, take the time to look around and see where you can find the mentors who are right for you, because not everyone is right for you.
And we're going to get into that. We will go into that.
Yeah.
So let's back up a little bit. So you were born in Guyana, 1978.
7.
Okay. We might have to cut that part out.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I am a proud 47. I am proud. I feel good. And I embrace every single day, and I feel blessed to be here every single day. So I'm okay sharing my age.
So, and you moved to the U.S. at 2 years old. You moved to Brooklyn in New York. And then 7 years later, or about 10 years later, you won your first pageant at 9 years old. So,
Yes.
Did you want to compete in pageants, or was it like Miss Wendy, your mom, who was just like competing in it? Or?
It's crazy. There. You hear people talk about, and I'm sure Beyonce's mom may say this, or the Taylor Swift's parents or family. There's some people that it's just in them, and I feel like pageantry was something that I always wanted. It wasn't something that my mom forced me to do. I was constantly dressing up, putting on her lipstick. I used to wear her stockings that she would put on. I would actually put it in and make it into a long ponytail, and I would pretend that that's my ponytail, and her heels. And I always wanted to be in the arts and do something artistic. And my mom really saw that, and she said, okay, you know what, let's give her a reason to dress up. My grandmother was also a very accomplished seamstress. So for a very long time, my grandmother actually sewed all of my pageant dresses, my pageant gowns, my talent costumes. She made them all. And she was just such a great seamstress, and it all just tied in. But I was excited. I did it. And it's crazy, but my 9-year-old self, I think, was more confident than the self later on down the road, because
Yeah.
at 9 years old, I knew I walked into that pageant and I was like, and it was a lot of girls. I remember it was a lot of kids. It was like so many of them, but I knew I was going to win. I'm like, oh, I'm winning. And as life starts to put doubt in our head and we get older, it's like, I hope I win. So I really, this year I said to myself, I want to go back to the young me who felt that as long as I put the work in, oh, I can get what I want. And it takes a long time to get there and to mentally be there. But yeah, I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted to do it.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're about to get into the educational side of Nic Blaize, okay? So let's rewind a little bit. So after you won your first pageant at 9 years old, you go to high school, still in Brooklyn, still in New York. You go to the Academy of Arts, do that. You do another pageant, talented teen, you get fourth runner-up. We're going to keep fast forwarding, y'all. Okay, catch up. 1995, you win Miss Guyana USA, or Miss Guyana USA 1994, and you won at 17 years old, which is the youngest contestant. Now let's skip a couple more years up. She goes to college in Long Island and studies psychology. Now this is where it interests me, because this is where we really see the Nic today. This is where like the catalyst of when everything starts boiling up. So you study psychology in college. Why out of all things psychology?
If my grandmother was alive and you asked my grandmother, she would say I was always inquisitive. But for me, I'm fascinated with how people think. And to take it further, not just how you think, but how you react to things. Because you can have two exact same children. They grow up in the exact same household, and one goes on to be very successful and one not. One, does the total opposite. How's that if they came from the same parents? They were loved the same. And it always fascinated me. And I always wanted to know how the mind reacts, how the mind works. And more importantly, I feel like psychology is a real window into the mind. And if you start to understand people, you start to develop empathy, and you're able to meet people where they are. So from a very early age, I wanted to just know how people think.
And that's interesting because, fast forwarding to you owning Inspire Gravity, having all this experience in pageantry and people and humans, it shows. So, and this is another reason why I wanted you on the podcast, is because you do offer services that are different from the rest. And since I know you personally, I kind of know those differences, but share with the audience how you have been able to incorporate that psychology and incorporate fast forwarding how you moved to Atlanta to work at CDC, doing all those workshops and certifications, going deeper into how the human mind works and human behavior. Just tell us how you've been able to incorporate those key things into Inspire Gravity, which is your coaching service.
So the really quick funny story, Inspire Gravity was not supposed to be mine. Inspire Gravity, most parents, we have children and our children want to do something. And my oldest daughter at the time, she was a teenager and she wanted to create this fashion line. And she's like, oh, Mom, I think I want to create this clothing line and I'm going to call it Inspire Gravity. And I'm like, why Inspire Gravity? It's just a weird name. And she said, I don't know, Inspire Gravity Couture. Like, I don't know. And it just never stuck with me. And I started, when I was working at my agency, I was just really on a fast track with my career. Like, I just knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew where I wanted to go in the agency. And I was just working and climbing. And a colleague of mine reached out to me. She's like, hey, we started at the same time. This was like literally maybe 4 years into me starting at the CDC. And she said, we started at the same time. And I'm still a contractor. Like, how did you get from a contractor to an FTE? And now I see you have a grade increase. Like, how did that happen? So I started telling her, I was like, I started with the end in mind. I had a goal. This is what I wanted to do. I was very focused and gave her pointers. And she took the pointers. And next thing you know, she became an FTE. And someone else asked her, hey, how did you become an FTE? And she said, Nic. She said, honestly, Nic, you got to reach out to Nic. She helped me revamp my resume. She gave me pointers. And before I knew it, colleagues were coming to me and asking me for advice and how can I help them with their careers. And my husband made a joke one day. He said, you need to make a career out of this. Like, you can make some money doing this. It's like, you're doing all this stuff for free. And look at it as me working. I looked at it as I enjoy helping people. And as I started to do it, it became more of on a regular basis, and to the point where I needed a company. I needed to have a company where I'm doing this. And I'm thinking, racking my brain, Nic Blaize Consulting, or Blaize Consulting, or I kept, and a post-it note that my daughter had Inspire Gravity written on was sitting by my computer. And I looked at it, and for the first time, I saw the name differently. I didn't see it as like, what were you thinking? A clothing line? No, I saw what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to inspire people so that they can gravitate towards their purpose. And that's when I realized Inspire Gravity was the name for us. And when I say us, the goal was always to grow it to the fact that it's no longer just Nic, but everyone that comes through working with me or working with someone on my team, they are Inspire Gravity too. Because just like that colleague that reached out to me to help her, and she was able to then pass it on, and that's what it's about. It's about you truly being an inspiration, and anything you set your mind to is going to gravitate towards you. And that's how Inspire Gravity came about. It was kind of, as the young people say, on accident. It was on accident, but yeah, that's how it came about. So weird.
It's more of a personalized experience, because with pageants and pageant coaches, there's like a zillion. And now with everything being virtual and just, I don't know, with some of these coaches, it just seems like you're in and out. But what I've been able to see with you is that you just stick with the girls the entire way. Like, it's not like a get in and get out, or here's my money, let me give you your 40-minute, services. Like it's more of a personalized experience.
It is more, because it really is more. Honestly, the coaching is the common factor that gets me in front of someone new. That's the common thing. You're coming to me because that you want to be coached. But really and truly, coaching is very different, and it's different for different people. But from my certifications and my background in learning what coaching really is, and what makes Inspire Gravity and what we do so different, is we have 3 tiers to what we do. We have the coaching aspect, we have the mentoring aspect, and then we get to the training of technique. And a lot of people kind of lump it into like a hodgepodge. It's all together, but really it isn't. And I think that's when you reference, some coaches go, they just pop in and out. It's because it's probably sometimes all lumped in. But on the coaching floor, you are you. And when I say you, the coach, on the coaching floor, you are learning the client. Because a true coach knows that when a girl is coaching with you, and I say this to you guys, when a girl is coaching with you, remember, when a girl is coaching with you, you're helping her to recognize her own voice. So in taking that journey with her, so she finds her own voice and she finds the skills and what she's good at her own pace, in her own way, you're learning, you, the coach, you're learning from her. And then when she's ready, you move her into mentoring. So now she is looking at you for guidance. She's seeing you are using your expertise, the things that you know, to give her advice. Because coaches are not supposed to give advice. We're supposed to help guide you and create a safe environment where you feel confident speaking with your own voice. And when you get to the mentor stage, it's when I'm showing you and I'm talking to you and educating you on my experience in pageantry, or if it's in the life coaching side, my experience, and offering recommendations, because mentors do offer recommendations. And then once we are moving in and we're comfortable, we've got coaching down, we're mentor to mentee, it's time to learn technique. And the technique is where we're now showing you how to do things or what to do based on us building that rapport. So it takes time, and not every client is an Inspire Gravity client. Some clients, they want it here and now. And to be honest, some people can. There's some people that walk in the door and they'll say, I'm confident. I know who I am. I know I'm going to win this pageant, or I know I'm going to get this job I'm applying for. I just need some advice from you to help me get there. So she's already coached herself, or he's already coached himself. So you're looking for a mentor and then also a trainer of technique. But it's important to really find the right coach for you. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to me when I hear someone say that a coach made them feel bad, and they're coming to me, or they're feeling inferior. No coach. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you've coached. No coach should ever beat a girl down just so you have the privilege of building her back up in your own likeness. That's just not right. And I think sometimes that's what's lost. But there are some phenomenal coaches. I'm a coach, but I have a coach. I have a mentor. I have people who continue to train me in technique because it's needed. And there's some amazing people out there. And sometimes they're like a hidden secret. They're a hidden secret, but they're amazing coaches in whether it's private sector or you're looking for a job or pageantry. They're amazing coaches out there.
Yeah. And you keep mentioning technique. So when I hear technique, I think of, T-pose, this and this. But is it something I'm missing when it comes to technique?
So technique is the ability for you to first understand the moves, right? So we're going to step away from pageantry for a moment.
Okay.
I'm going to start with like life coaching and career coaching, right? Because they do go hand in hand. And so when you are applying for a job, I can promise you there is a technique you need to know to make yourself stand out against other candidates who are competing for that job as well. Pageantry is no different. You're still pursuing a job and you're still speaking to people. The difference is the timing is sometimes 4 minutes, 2 minutes, depending on the system. And you really have to learn the technique to connect. And not just connect to one person, like we're having a one-on-one discussion, but to connect to a wider audience, to connect to a wider group of people. You have to learn that technique. And that technique is beyond simply learning to walk on a stage or picking out the right outfit. But it's something as simple as don't slouch, sit up, make eye contact. Don't be afraid to look someone in the eye so they can look through and see your sincerity. So there are certain techniques that you do have to teach. But if you have skipped the mentoring piece, but the most important piece to me is the coaching. Because I'll go back to it 10 times over. Coaching is very important because if you have found your voice, and you know who you are, when you get on that stage or you get in an interview room, you're going to feel so comfortable leaning into someone. You're going to feel so good expressing and talk about your future goals and what you want to do. But if you've only learned the technique, you will get the technique right. You will say it the right way, but you may come across cold and detached because you missed the coaching aspect. So definitely, it is a process, and some people are impatient. Some people are like, listen, lady, my pageant is next week. I just wanted to be able to say that I coached with someone, and if you can't give it to me, and people will take your money because coaching is a business, just like pageantry is a business. But you ask a lot of people that I work with, they become a part of Inspire Gravity. They become a part of the team. You know, we are planning baby showers for some of our clients. We are going to their weddings and going to their graduations with school, because you connect between coaching and mentoring.
Yeah.
You connect. And that's really, I think, that's the secret to our sauce.
Okay.
You know?
Perfect. I am curious though, like, where did all this knowledge come from? Did it go back to college? Like, is that where it started from? Like, what was the pivotal moment where you're like, okay, I have a lot of insight, I have a lot to offer? What was that?
Honestly, I think it's still happening. I think I've never quit being a learner, and every time I interact with someone, it's an opportunity for me to learn from that moment and apply it into what I do when it comes to coaching. I learn from clients because sometimes especially children clients. You know, a lot of coaches, they don't want to work with little kids, but little kids give you patience. If you can coach a child, because sometimes you're in the mood and sometimes you're not. And I learn from them a lot, but it is every single day. Most of the technique in coaching I've gotten through certifications. I am a certified coach. I'm certified at the federal level. So I am a certified federal coach, which means that I coach at our agency, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That's what I do. I'm actually over coaching for our entire agency. So anyone who knows me knows I'm not the person that like pats themselves on the back. But when it comes to this piece, I'm proud to say it because a lot of time, money has gone into getting me to be good at my craft. Am I the right coach for everyone? I think I am. I really do. I don't mean to say it, but I think I am because I meet people where they're at. And I am willing to learn from you, learn with you, and take a journey with you when it comes to achieving your goals. But I learn every single day.
Yeah.
I really, really do. I am an open book. I learn every single day. And I really feel like I'll never start asking questions and learning until I die.
Yeah.
So it's every single day for me.
Now, I am curious, would you say, because most people don't know that you were a flight attendant at one point, you were in customer service, even working at the ophthalmologist's office, like you've done so many things. But, you know, would you say that those experiences has equipped you with the knowledge and skills to then work at CDC? Like, do you think that being a flight attendant has anything to do, like...
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you're engaging with humans, and it's safety, it's health and safety still.
I will tell you that every job I've ever had, from the time I had my first job working at Macy's to being a flight attendant, it's always been customer service driven and customer focused. That's where I flourish. I flourish when I work with people. If you want to give me the kiss of death, stick me in a closet somewhere, working behind a computer all day, never interacting with people, programming something. That's just not my area. I like people. I'm fascinated with the mind, as I mentioned earlier. I just love how people work. So everything I've done, I feel has led me to where I am and where I continue to want to be. You know, my ultimate goal is when I retire from the CDC, because I love my job. My day job at the CDC, I honestly love what I do. And I plan on retiring in this space and, you know, hopefully working for the same group of people and working with the same group of people. But my goal is when I retire from the CDC, and I'm old and gray, I really plan on working in Spy Gravity. Because I feel like I believe in this brand. I believe in what we do, what we offer. And we now have a team beyond myself, but it was a carefully curated team of people that I know understand the concept and the brand. It resonates with them. So I think I'll do this for a long time.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll definitely get into where you see yourself in the future endeavors. I do quickly want to get into, you are a businesswoman, okay? So even though you help other people. You're a mentor. You're also an entrepreneur. You're also a businesswoman. So there's ups and downs with businesses and maintaining inventory. For example, Nic Blaize Cosmetics.
Yes.
So just tell us, how do you balance being such a mentor? My earring just fell.
Okay.
How do you balance being a mentor, a mother, a wife, and also managing your business? Like do you do anything during the day, like any self-practice rituals to keep you in track or in check?
In a perfect world, and as a coach, you're supposed to say you do these things, and that's why you're perfect. My life is far from perfect. I get overwhelmed. I have days that are amazing, perfect, everything. The light turns green every time I get to a light, it's changing green. Then there are days that you're late and every single light is turning red. So I don't have a perfect way, but what I do know is my goal. And my goal is to be at a certain point, and I know every single thing I do is leading me to that point, and that's what drives me. So I don't have a ritual, but what I do have is what drives me. And what drives me are my children, and most importantly, my faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like God has truly said to me, I have something in store for you. And I always feel like if I don't get up, I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss what he has for me. So that's what gets me up every single day to make me say, you know what, today may be the day that the dots are connected and you like, aha, this is what he meant when he said, I have something in store for you. Mm-hmm. And every single day I get up waiting and pushing forward. And some days you're just like, well, that was a waste of a day. And then some days I am so happy I got up because I accomplished this or I met that person. So definitely it is knowing that what was written for me has already been written. And if I'm not in the right place and I'm not in the right mindset, I will miss it or it will be delayed.
So 2008, this is when you have Inspired Gravity, Nic Blaize Cosmetics. 2011 to 2012, this is where you're at CDC, you're gaining certifications left and right, being a life coach. And then 2013, we have Dorothy's House. So would you consider that like you're in the pageant world, a platform or advocacy? Like where did that come from?
It was a way to give back to my grandmother. I feel like my grandmother, she was very into pageants. Like she was the person who had the signs, and I am going to laugh at this, but my grandmother was the heckler. You robbed my granddaughter. Why did my granddaughter win this pageant? She was, because she was a diehard, advocate. But one thing about my grandmother is my grandmother took in so many people's children and adopted them as her own. So she was cooking for them, caring for them, and Dorothy's House came at a time that I felt like we needed something to pay honor to her. And it started out as just something to give donations to foster care in Georgia. And it took on a life of its own. It grew. It grew to the point that we were now doing things abroad to different Caribbean countries, and we were having galas and and that kind of stuff. And Dorothy's House just really took on a life of its own. But it was really about honoring my grandmother and just recognizing what she's done just for so many young people.
Absolutely. And then 2 years later, you compete. So you had a 8-year hiatus from competing where...
Me, no. My competitions,
I had Mrs. Georgia America.
So Mrs. Georgia America my hiatus was like 20 years. It was like a 20-year hiatus because I hadn't competed again since I was younger. Like I was like in my early 20s and 18, 19 years old. And then Mrs. Georgia America was one of those things that my oldest daughter found it, and she's like, oh my gosh, Mom, because she was like, I was thinking of competing.
Look, it happened to you.
It's okay. No, it's okay. Okay, it's just that I'm not gonna move a certain way. I'm not gonna.
Here.
No.
No,
No, I got it.
You have to switch air and back and down.
Girl power. This is how we help each other.
Yeah.
This is It's a good thing. But so my daughter, my oldest daughter, she signed me up and then told me, hey, Mom, I signed you up for this pageant. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. It can help with the coaching business. It can help Nic Blaize Cosmetics because now it's pageant girls, and I can promote our cosmetics company, so I'll do it. So I did not practice. I did not research. I just felt like it's a Mrs. pageant. Like, this is my first Mrs. pageant. Let me just do it. And when I competed, it had been 20 years, I competed and I realized, wait a minute, these aren't Mrs. They're married, but they're like in their 20s, and their bodies are amazing. They look fantastic, and they're younger, and they're beautiful, they're accomplished. And it was too late because, you meet everyone when you get there. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to make the most of this, we're going to make the most of it. Got second runner-up. And for a minute, my 9-year-old self came back, where I was like, okay, so if I put in the work, I'm coming back and I'm winning this pageant. And not only am I going to win, I'm going to win swimsuit, I'm going to win gown, I want to win all of the awards and the crown. That was my 9-year-old self. So the pageant ended today with me being second runner-up. I kid you not, that next day I sent the director a message saying, hey, are your applications open for next year? I'd like to compete. And he's like, okay, sure, you can send a deposit. And I spent a year getting my body right and looking really great because I wanted to win swimsuit. I knew interview was not going to be my problem. That's never been my problem. I can talk. I like to talk, I like to connect with people. And gown was something I've always been told. I'm graceful on stage, but I needed to be competitive in swimsuit. That was like my Achilles heel. So got myself in shape, worked really, really hard, came back, and I won. And I was excited. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Mrs. America. I don't need to win Mrs. America. I just need to get my cosmetic company out there. So I created a lipstick called Mrs. Georgia, and that was going to be my gift that I would give to every contestant. So all 50 women that I got there, they all got
Miss Congeniality.
I got a Mrs. Georgia lipstick, and next thing I know, I got top 5 at Mrs. America, felt like a winner, felt great, but then the win paid off because I'm getting messages from my sister queen saying, hey, my friend back home in Wisconsin loved that lipstick, can they order it? And I started giving people codes. Here's a code for 10% off, and before I knew it, Mrs. Georgia became our #1 selling lipstick. All from sisterhood and women spreading the word and supporting their fellow sister queen. So it definitely was good. It was a great experience.
I just learned something because this whole time I thought the reason why Miss Georgia America or Mrs. America in general is because it's branched off from Miss America and they have the talent and the culture arts.
No. I was done
Just
competing. My daughter signed me up, and it was interesting because for a few months while I was Mrs. Georgia America, I was a beauty queen, a Georgia beauty queen. My daughter was a Georgia beauty queen because she was teen Georgia International at the time. And then my little Madison, at like 4 years old, she was in the UNM system. She was their Peach State Queen. So at one point, all 3 of us were Georgia Queens at the same time. So.
Now, you mentioned early on that there were a few things that you would do different or different from your own upbringing that has translated to your own kids. Is there anything, pageant or life related or, either or, is there anything that you would have done differently? Is there anything you
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've done it differently, and I wish my mom had did it differently, which is I know now as an adult how much she loved me, like how much she sacrificed. How, us taking 3 trains in the freezing cold of New York winter to get to my dance class or to my dance recital was a sacrifice. But I hated it and I didn't see it as a sacrifice. I just felt like, oh my gosh, it's so cold. Why are we doing this? But that was her love. I just never heard it. I never heard it. And I remember saying, I want to be different. I want to tell my kids how much I love them and say it all the time. So my kids know and they hear it from me all the time. And that's one thing that I never want my kids to question. You can question any room you go in, whether or not you're liked, whether or not people value you, or whether you feel love in that room. I never want my kids to question if they're in a room with me, if they're loved by me. Yeah. And I wanted to take from my mom the fact that she sacrificed and used action to show me, but then also verbalize it. So that's the one thing I would definitely say that I did differently from my mom is being a better person, verbalizing the love I feel for people.
Not getting that verbal affirmation, would you say has made a negative impact on you growing up? Or?
I think it made me want it, and also made me want to give it. And I think sometimes there's some people who are like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. Like, she's so affectionate, she's so caring. Some people are like, too touchy-feely, back up. So it can be a negative or a positive if you're not able to read the room or read how you're coming across to others. But I definitely will say for the people that matter in my life, it definitely has had a positive impact because I feel like that's the one thing they'll never question. They may question whether or not I like them in this moment, but they'll never question if I love them forever. That's something I don't think anyone will question who knows me.
Absolutely. And fast forward to 2018 to about current or last year, you take all of your knowledge from CDC to all these certifications and just experience with customer service to having your own directorship with a pageant, Miss Earth USA, just being responsible for all those girls, in which I was one of those girls. So it was just amazing being a part of you and just hopping on to whatever you have going on. So what made you decide, like, look, I'm this confident in what I have to do, I can manage these states? Like, what made you want to become a director in general?
I wanted to really discover a blind spot. So I've had the experience as a competitor. I competed as a teen, as a, young American. I've competed as a Mrs. and I coached, but the one blind spot was the director's viewpoint. And I felt that I would be able to bring something to the table and bring something to any organization that would give me an opportunity. And the Miss Earth organization did that, giving me an opportunity to become a director and gain the insight from that viewpoint. I think it strengthened my ability to coach also and to mentor and to teach technique by me being able to say is, I see the business aspect of the director. Directors are going to love you. They're going to want you to succeed, especially if their pageant goes beyond them and it goes to another level pageant. So you may be a state director, but there's a national or international component to your organization. Directors want to win. But I wanted to learn the business aspect because I think that I would become dangerous in the field of coaching and consulting if I also understood the business it takes to go into being a director, being an owner, or being a competitor. And I can help my clients to say, listen, this is what a director is looking at. This is what they're looking for. And why will they take a chance on you? Why will they judges? Because let's be clear, 90% of pageants, and I know that most people out there will probably think that I'm giving a high number, but 90% of pageants out there are run fairly. Believe it or not, it's a small piece that aren't run fairly, right? Yeah. But the bottom line is it's a business. And that's the one thing, whether you're the 90% that you're running your pageant fair and with integrity, or you're part of the 10% that you're not running it fairly, the one thing you have in common at 100% is it's a business. And you have to fit that business. And you cannot fit the business and the brand if you don't have a clue what they're looking for. And being a director with Miss Earth gave me an opportunity to see that side and to strengthen myself as a coach in this industry.
Real quick though, I do want to know if this is fact or fiction. Do directors operate at a loss? I mean, like, what is the business like? Like, do they give you the funds to host the pageant, the lighting, the production side? Like,
so that is a huge misconception with people who are either trying to get into directing, or you just see it and they're like, oh, I want to be a director because I want to be able to be someone's boss or whatever. No, it's out of your pocket. And when you are going in, just like any business, you have to recognize that your first 2 or 3 years, you may operate at a loss. You may not. But the reality of it is you may operate at a loss, and you have to have funds available. I pay for my lighting, I pay for my venue, the trinkets I give to my contestants. I mean, you name it, everything. I'm expected to pay for it. If I'm lucky, I'm able to tap into my community and the resources and the relationships I've built over time and get great sponsors like Beauty Queens Galore. That's a privilege. It's an honor to be able to, but as a director, you are responsible down to the t-shirts. You're responsible for everything, and you're also responsible, if you're good at what you do, is getting your girl ready and making sure she's ready when she goes on to that next pageant, or if you are a one and done pageant, giving her a great year. You're responsible for that.
so there's no like reimbursement, or so this is just out of love. You're just doing this out of love, really.
So you know, I'll say
any
this.
directors.
I'll say this, and I'll speak for Nic Blaize because maybe someone else has found the secret sauce that I don't know. But like for instance, you know, part of being who I am and being a title holder under Inspire Gravity, we offer you coaching and consulting. But I always tell my girls, whether it's Inspire Gravity or Beauty Queens Galore, you may be receiving a service or a product for free, but it's not free to the person who's sponsoring it or giving it to you. It's costing them something. So when I give my contestants or my title holders makeup, it's not makeup that I got for free. It's Nic B Cosmetics that I paid for, and I'm giving it to you. If Beauty Queens Galore, for instance, sponsors a girl's gown, or you mail a girl a cocktail dress, think about it. Was that cocktail dress for free?
No, we had to pay for the shipping, the handling.
Exactly. So really, and that's where you go back into the mentoring piece. So we move from coaching, haven't gotten into technique, but the mentoring piece is teaching your clients how to say thank you.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, a little thank you goes a very long way.
Very.
And in this industry, we are such a fast-paced rinse and repeat industry that the thank yous are sometimes lost. Or the thank yous are given in private. As a business owner, and to really get to the meat and potatoes of your question, as a business owner, I am happy as a coach who's passionate about what I do to receive your thank yous in text messages, the phone calls. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Nic. You helped me so much. As a business owner, I need you to say it publicly because that's what helps my brand.
Tag us.
And there's some businesses, and for a very long time, it took a very good friend of mine to share with me and let me know that, Nic, no, you're a business. Yeah, that's so sweet. You're showing me a text message where, oh my God, she sent me this text message. But Nic, she's posting and she's not saying you publicly. And that's something that really gets under my skin, because you have some businesses who they are popular, they have a huge following, and they don't really need it, right? You know, but small businesses, however, we need it. We need it. Whether it's a coach or a smaller dress store, a makeup artist, we need those thank yous publicly. We need you to give us reviews. We need all those things to make a huge difference. We need them.
Absolutely. So a thank you goes a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, you are a business. Everything's not for free. That lip gloss was not for free. And speaking about sponsorship fees and all these extra fees, I mean, it could be a lot. So can you share with us, out of all this chaotic mess, what has directorship taught you?
It's taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot about myself. But one thing that it really taught me was knowing when to go. Knowing when something no longer fits your brand, or you've outgrown the brand. Like you thank that person or that organization for the opportunity. You gain experience, and now you believe that you are ready to take your talent elsewhere. And I always say to my clients, and I'll say this to anyone listening: don't get mad. Move your money. It is not an insult to say I have outgrown something. If your favorite pair of socks, and I'm not trying to say directorship and socks are the same, but just as an example, we get comfortable in our good pair of socks or our comfy jeans. But if it starts to get worn out or a hole in it and you've outgrown it, it's time to move on and replace it. And I think, one thing I've learned from being around successful women in pageantry is knowing when it's time to go. And you always want to leave an organization where you feel good, you feel empowered to take the skills you've learned and take it someplace else. Right now I'm focusing a lot on Inspire Gravity and just continuing to grow our brand and just showing everyone the difference in when you coach with us. But I'm definitely looking to get back into directorship again and becoming a director again. I think I'll know when the organization is the right one and when the fit is the right one. But I definitely am grateful to the Earth Organization for giving me a chance to not just direct one state, but by the time I told the national director that I was resigning and I wanted to focus on my coaching, I was directing 4 states. And I believe that it was that experience that's going to help me to direct again in another organization. But definitely was a great experience, and I'm excited and looking forward to my next opportunity to direct again.
Awesome. Now, for the directors out there, just to name drop, like currently we have Miss USA. That's the pageant, the Super Bowl pageant of the year. And there has been a shift in directorships. So what advice do you give to the directors who are going through the same process as you, who are trying to just figure out when to leave, when to go, when to stay? What advice do you have for them if they currently feel like, I don't know what to do, I don't know whether I should leave, I'm too nervous, I feel like I have nowhere else to go? What is your advice to those directors that are listening right now?
So my first advice to directors would definitely be, fear is not an option. Fear will either keep us rooted in place, so we make no move at all, or fear will make us make an impulsive decision and it may not be the right one. Really sit down and think about what drove you into this. If it was money and that's all you care about, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what drives you. If money was your reasoning, are you still making the same amount of money? Is it costing you money? Is it no longer financially sustainable? If money is your reason and it's no longer financially stable, then it's probably the time to go. If what got you here was wanting to empower women and you believed in the organization that you're a part of and you want to continue, if there's a shift, if within yourself something has happened within you that you can't give it your all like you used to, or that organization has changed leadership and the new leadership of that organization does not speak to your brand, it is okay to say, I gracefully leave. But it is not okay to be rooted in fear. I think fear is something that can really paralyze us, and it's not something I would wish on anyone. You should always feel empowered, because if you're a director and you're afraid to speak up in an organization, or that environment does not give you the autonomy to speak up and to advocate, it may be time to go.
Absolutely.
It may be time to go.
hop back into the directorship with all your experiences. Tell us, is it fact or fiction that as a director, are you operating at a loss? We hear a lot of that all the time with our anonymous posts and our submissions, with people saying, you know, I'm a director, but I'm not getting any feedback from our national pageant. I'm having to pay for this and this and this. Can you debunk that myth for us? What is it like being a director?
I will say it is definitely not a myth. You know, as a director, you have to know and you have to recognize that you're gonna probably operate at a loss your first 2 years. You may make a profit, and that's great, but you are responsible for your pageant production, the prizes you give to your contestants, securing sponsors, getting your girl to their next level competition if your competition is a state pageant that leads to a national or international pageant. You're responsible. So there is expenses, and that's why it's really important for you to recognize that. But it's just like any business, you operate with an operating budget, and yes, your goal is to have your pageant making money, but you do have to pour in your own money in the beginning in order to see a profit, if you ever do.
Seeing the business side of it, I'll send girls a gown, they'll send me a text saying, oh, thank you so much, I love this gown, it fits so perfect. But there's no post, there's no tags, and it may sound, I guess, greedy or shallow from my perspective, but you know, this is a business at the end of the day. So can you just share with us the effects of sponsorships and why it is important for a girl to not only, you know, give her gratitude to you, but to also showcase that on social media? You mentioned earlier that it is kind of, I think you mentioned like a wash cycle or something like that with the title holders coming in and out.
Rinse and wash and repeat.
So yes, let's get into that.
I'll tell you, I'm so happy you brought that up because I cannot tell you how frustrating it is as a business owner. You know, from a coaching standpoint, as a coach, I love the fact that you're sending me a personalized text message saying to me, Nic, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your coaching, or thank you for your expertise. It really helped me. I won my pageant, or I landed the next job I was interviewing for. I love that as a coach. But from the business aspect, as a small business owner, I need you to do it publicly. Because what you're saying to me through a text message really needs to also be said publicly. I know most people think it's wrong to say this, but as a business owner, we need it. You know, one of my very good friends said to me, you know, Nic, that's great that you're getting these text messages. When I used to show her, she said, but Nic, no, you need to get these girls to really say this publicly, because there's so many coaches out there and they'll never know how much you are helping people if it's a good kept secret. And it's the same with the dress store. Like, you have to, we send people things, but it may be free for you, the recipient, because you're receiving something, but it doesn't mean that it's not costing that coach or that sponsor. And more importantly, I think there's also this misconception was, well, I paid for your service, so I don't really have to thank you. And that's fine, that yes, you paid for the service, but I would sure appreciate it if you did. You know, you don't have to, but I would really appreciate if you did thank me publicly and you did let others know, because that's what's going to help grow my business, and that's what's going to help me stay in this, because I'm getting that revenue, I'm getting the recognition. So I definitely appreciate the text messages, but as a business owner, I would love reviews publicly, as well as people making posts and tagging me in it.
It makes you feel, or not makes you feel, but it makes you relevant, you know, when people are tagging and posting. So out of all the chaoticness behind directorships, fees, putting on a pageant, in your case, operating all these different states, I mean, what has directorship taught you?
It has taught me a lot about myself, how to handle and overcome obstacles and challenges, how to deal with different personalities. But I definitely will say, from a businesswoman standpoint, it's also taught me when it's time to go. You know, recognizing when your brand no longer fits with an organization and it's time to go. It's no different than if you are at a company that you work for and you apply for another job. You know, I learned that it is okay to listen to that instinct that tells you, okay, I kind of outgrown this. It's time to go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And pageantry is constantly evolving. And right now, the hottest topic on social media is what's going on with Miss USA. And if you're on the back end, you can understand, or on the back end, I mean, like, for example, we're the pageant resource. So we're always in the scoop of what's going on, what's happening. And we have been seeing a lot of directors falling off or just doing their own thing. So my question is, what advice do you have for the directors who are currently in the situation where they don't know whether to leave, whether to stay, they're afraid to branch out to other adventures? What is your advice? How can they figure out when it's time to leave?
I think that's definitely something that's personalized to each person, but if fear is what's keeping you in place and making you stay, that's not a good thing. Fear can either make you paralyzed and not make any moves, or fear can make you be irrational and post something crazy online and make a not so smart move. But what you have to do is you have to figure out what is your bottom line. What is the reason why you got with this organization in the first place? But if your bottom line is you want to inspire young ladies, you want to do something great for women, and the organization no longer aligns with that, you've got to be true to yourself and recognize. But your why should be what drives you. And most importantly, if you feel like you no longer have a voice, you should never stay where you are voiceless. And any organization that you are a part of should give you the opportunity and the ability to speak up. You do it respectfully and professionally, but you should speak up just the same.
So you do provide wonderful insight, from a director's perspective. But a lot of girls, when they're coming into pageantry, is that it could be very cutthroat. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the mental guard, the confidence, the self-esteem guard, pageantry could really tear someone up. Yeah. And they could really get into a depressive mode, in which we've been able to see with Chesley and the other young ladies, which brings me off to this tangent. A lot of people didn't really understand how mental health has had such a huge effect on pageantry outside of Chesley. Like, it had to take for Chesley to take her life for people to wake up like, oh my goodness. Yeah. And even that, people didn't know that there were young girls before then who have committed suicide. Lots of them. They weren't Miss USA or Miss Universe, but
and some girls are 9 years old, 10 years old, going to their closet in their bedroom and hanging themselves.
Absolutely.
And I before I really go into mental health, I do want to touch on something that has been annoying me lately, and I feel like having the opportunity to have a platform like being on this podcast really gives me a chance to speak this. And it may rub some people the wrong way, but something that's really annoyed me is that there are a lot of people who are using or have used the passing of Chesley, which was very tragic for her family, her friends, and anyone that knew her. They've used it as an opportunity for them to start whole nonprofits, for them to start businesses, and for them to suddenly go on this soapbox about mental health. But then in the same token, you are treating people in your organization, or you are mistreating your friends or your family members. And I really want to look in the camera, and I really want to stress this, that you can be a good person and behave badly. And I repeat that, you can be a good person and you can behave badly. But what's unacceptable is that you are saying that you're advocating for mental health and women's empowering, and the very people who work for you, or the very girls that you coach, or the clients you have, or the girls you may shoot as a photographer, you're mistreating them. If mental health is really important to you, and Chesley's passing really inspired you, then be better. Mm-hmm. Enough already. Be better. Stop using mental health as a fad. Stop using it as an opportunity for you to make money by starting a business and promoting it, because it's not a fad. This is real. And as you mentioned, before Chesley's passing, there were so many girls. I'm sure if you were to reach out to Chesley's mom, her inbox was probably inundated with people who have said, oh my gosh, my daughter did this, or my son did this. It's real. And pageantry is cutthroat. I've gotten some of my best friends I've made through pageantry. I have gained a lot of insight and knowledge. I have a whole business that's dedicated to pageantry, but at the same token, I recognize just how fragile a young lady can be. So if you're a coach, if you're a director, whether you're a director at the state, national, or international level, or you're just someone who you are in a girl's space, really take a step back and ensure that what you are exposing her to is going to make her feel empowered. And that's why the coaching aspect, not the technique, not the mentoring, but the coaching aspect is so important. Because if you're truly a coach and you are staying silent in that coaching space to let that girl tell you what her goals are, and if she's saying to you, I want to do this pageant because I want to gain my self-esteem. Instead of you saying, okay, I can teach you how to walk, I can teach you how to talk, I can help you with your brand and get the best wardrobe. Instead, the question directed back at that young lady should be, as a coach, it should be, and tell me what has happened that makes you feel not worthy. Or what has happened that makes you feel like you are not confident. And I hate to, and you can stop me if I'm going too personal with you, but I remember when I first met you. And when I first met you, I remember I was at a pageant and you were competing on stage, and I remember there was something about you that reminded me of myself younger, like my younger self, and I kept my eye on you. And when they were calling out the girls into that first cut, that top 20, and they're calling, and I remember, and I'm getting chills because I remember watching you on that stage, and I remember, you know, I see you, you're kind of like looking there at the last number that they're gonna call, and I remember seeing you on that stage, look, kind of stepping up, like hoping, and when they didn't call your name, it's like the entire air got sucked out of you. Yeah. And I remember having an experience in my life that was a very important experience, and it was the day I got married, and I remember there was a particular person I really wanted to be at my wedding. And I remember my photographer catching a picture of me looking to the back, looking and hoping that person would have showed up to see me get married. And that was the feeling that invoked. And when I walked up to you and I kind of raised your chin up after the pageant, I said,
She physically raised up my chin.
Yeah, I said, Queens lead from the head up, you know, and you fast forward from that encounter with you, and then when you started your pageant journey with the Earth Organization, and I started working with you and coaching, do you remember what's the first thing we did when you came to my house for a session? Where did we sit? Do you remember where we sat?
In your front room.
That's right. And you remember it wasn't like technique training. It was me getting to know you and
What's
asking
your personality?
you, what's your personality?
What color?
Yeah.
Look at it.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? And it was because I knew that the space I met you in, you were leaving one pageant that left you feeling broken because your name wasn't called. And dear I, and dear your mom, and dear your cheerleaders in your life, you know, pushed you towards another pageant. Before you could be your best, I needed to know why you felt that way. You know, and I needed you to hear it with your own words. And you told me some things of why you felt that way. And that's not the girl I see here. But it was because you, Kennedy, you found your voice. I didn't give that voice to you. You found it because of the coaching relationship we had, and that's what it's all about. So when you're talking mental health, we cannot try to make people into carbon copies, because on the outside they'll look really successful and they'll look like they have it all together, and they're screaming to be seen on the inside. And it's really important that we recognize that. So if we're true mental health advocates, it's really important that we take our egos out and we give people a safe space to really be them, judgment-free, and we let them find their voice on their own before you can start training them on technique.
Absolutely. We have Nic Blaize here, Inspire Gravity. She's here in Atlanta, Georgia.
One earring. But it's okay, it can stay right here.
Listen, like if you are a pageant queen in the Southeast region, or even if you're in California, because
Yeah,
you
we
get
coach
queens anywhere.
and around the world.
Around
We
the world.
coach for the Universe organization with their queens. We coach for Miss World, USA Girls. We coach around the world. Some girls are very lucky. There's some girls, like, you know, we've had several girls from Portugal that have gone up for Miss Universe or Supernatural and different Bahamas. And usually, if they're able to travel, they'll usually come and stay with me for about a week or two in my home. I bring them to you guys to try to get wardrobe, but it is definitely a full circle, and I love what I do. And if at any time I am no longer serving a young lady, I feel that I've empowered her enough for her to say it's time to move on, right? Just like we said, people have to know when they've outgrown someone. But, you know, I do thank God for letting me use my talent, and it marries and matches to what I love too. So it's a great feeling. So definitely, if you're looking for coaching, it is very unorthodox coaching, but we will definitely get you what you need. And if we are unable to, I have so many friends that I really admire in the coaching industry that I can promise you, if Nic Blaize cannot help you, I'll definitely find another coach that would be able to get you what you need. But definitely give us a try.
Absolutely, that's what you hear.
I will attempt to, but you know, I kind of like it in my hand. You know, I kind of like it in my hand. See, there you go. It wants to stay here. So this is my good side. Okay. So I will turn my good side, and I'll be here.
I do want to know, some coaches don't take any new clients. Are you taking new?
Absolutely, okay. Absolutely. God said that, you know, I will bless you with abundance, and as long as you move some things out the way. Hence why I'm no longer a director. I stepped down from being a director because, you know, literally, and this is going to sound on the, you know, supernatural side, but I had a dream one day, and in my uncle that passed away's voice, but I know this was God saying, if you want more blessings, you've got to move some things out the way. But I have a lot in store for you. So we are always taking on new clients. We welcome it. We're very diverse and very passionate group of people, and we you know, we want your business. Like, we want your business. We want to make you a gravity girl. We want you to see what we're all about. And I know for sure that from one session, that one colors, and as you mentioned earlier, when I do my first,
because they hear colors, but like, can you real quickly just?
So I am, you know, as I mentioned early on, I am certified in DISC. DISC is a personality assessment, so I am certified to administer DISC. I'm certified to do 360. And what 360 is an opportunity for a person, whether it's in the business side or even the pageant world, where you give me a couple of names, a minimum of 7 people, and I send them a key, a virtual key, and they assess you. They say how, you know, how you come across to them, and you also take one on yourself, and we get the results back and we discuss it to see if the way you see yourself, the rest of the world and other people see you that way. And then we also do real colors. I'm also certified. I'm actually the only person certified at the CDC, so I'm very proud to say that. But I do real colors, and real colors is more of a temperament, and it really gives you an opportunity to figure out how you respond to people, places, things, and situations. So that's how we start. You know, we really like to give an assessment of our clients, so I can kind of, some people, I've been doing it for a long time. So like some of my title holders, I remember one time I had a little brunch at my house with my title holders, and I kind of did the colors. And before we did the test in them, I wrote down what I thought their colors and their style was, and I kind of said, okay guys, I'm gonna put it over here, and now you're gonna take the assessment. And I was 100% correct. They were like, how do you know? So over time you get to learn. But what colors is all about, it makes you a stronger candidate in any interview, whether business or pageantry. You walk in and you learn, okay, based on how this judge asks that question, their tone, the words they chose to use when phrasing the question, you can get a quick glimpse into what you believe, because we should never try to pigeonhole people, but you get a quick glimpse of what you believe they are, and it helps you to inform your responses.
Yeah.
It's easier for us to change ourselves and adjust than to try to change other people. This was very, very nice. I had a great time. I hope that just because I'm your first, I won't be your last.
Oh, no.
I hope I'll be back, because this was just a really, really great, and thank you for the questions. I think there were questions that I would have probably thought to ask myself, because I probably think, oh, I know this, right? So you got me to really think. You got me to really think, and more importantly, you got me to revisit my childhood. And me revisiting my childhood gave me an opportunity to revisit 9-year-old me that was so confident, and reminding myself as I was speaking and really speaking with from here that she is someone that I definitely need to play on, because she was fearless.
Yeah.
Like, she was climbing trees with the boys. You know, I have lots of nicks on my legs from 9-year-old me, who was like, what? You said I can't climb that tree? Watch me. And I'm going up and down. So, you know, you really gave me an opportunity and a space to reflect. But then also, there are messages that the environment I work in, I'm not allowed, or I shouldn't say allowed, I'm not given a frequent opportunity to be able to say things, especially talking about mental health and how I feel about where we are right now with it and how much work that's left to be done. I do believe that you gave an opportunity for me to really say some things that I really wanted to say, but you can't exactly, I'm not the girl who's going to make a post about it,
Yeah.
you know, but you gave a great opportunity. So I hope you keep this up. Congratulations on
Oh, wait.
kicking off.
Miss Nick, I'm so sorry to cut you off, you guys.
What?
I heard through the grapevine that it's your birthday, or your previous birthday. So we did live. Let's do a little cheers. Happy birthday, Miss
Thank
Nick.
you. Thank you.
Congratulations to
Thank
more life.
you. Yes, no, thank you. And happy birthday to you, as this is your first.
Oh,
This
yes.
is your first, so
First
happy
episode.
birthday to
Say,
you.
do a little cheers.
And yes, you and your podcast. And I really hope that people really tune in and really recognize, you know, the voice and the space that you're giving to so many people. So thank you so much.